the mindfulness around writing an abstract is different in different set of manuscript type. We should also be clear about that. The different kind of manuscript type do have different guidelines around the restriction or the number of words that we have for the abstract. For example, if we are writing a review, then in that case, you will have a flexibility to write one page of abstract. But at the same time, if you are writing a manuscript type which is of communication, or which is a new insight, new area that you have developed, and that is into the communication format of an article, then you will have a restricted 200 to 300 words in which you have to capture the abstract. So the basic element of the abstract has to be covered, rather than we have to go into the number of words that we have to capture, whether it be 800 words, 1000 words, 2000 words. So we'll talk about the basic elements which come into the abstract. And this basic element again comes back to the fact that we related with the story in the beginning, that why we are doing the research, what is it that we want to make sure that the audience know from the conceptual, from the fundamental understanding that we have built, what is it that we are going to solve with the help of the problem that we have defined, the experiments that we have done, what is it that we are bringing in conclusion, and what is the way forward. So those kind of elements are not going anywhere, and this is important. And this story is going to be narrated in the abstract. Once it is narrated in the abstract, the story runs throughout as a movie in the whole manuscript. And this is how it works when we correlate it with the help of a different set of like understanding when we read a book, when we see a movie, or whatever we do. So all those elements have the same philosophy, but the audience are different, and at the same time, the people who are into the business, they are different. So the example that I have captured here is again talking about the four core components of an abstract, irrespective of the type of manuscript that we have chosen to write, whether it be review, whether it be manuscript in an article format, or communication format. So it starts with the fact that we need to have a problem statement, the purpose of the research, that why we did this research, what was the need for this research problem, why I identified this. Is there something where there is a background that, okay, this was started in such a way, but some people fail to attest the claims that were identified at the beginning of, let's say, 1920s. But now there is scope to move ahead with the technology that now we have. And then the set of problem comes into picture. Now you have different kind of experiments, the different kind of models that you have developed. And with the help of methodology and models, you are trying to identify and solve the problem. Then the third part is, with the help of experiments, you have a data set, you have all those kind of inferences that you have brought. So what does it imply? Where do we go from here? This is what the conclusion part comes. And then the final key takeaway for the researchers, that, okay, is it the end, or is it the beginning of new thing? Or is it something which can be translated into some applied work? Is there a requirement that people should come together from different domain and know more, dig deeper into it? So that is the component which comes into the end. The second example, with the same kind of mindset, but at the same time different research area. So again, I'm trying to re-emphasize that irrespective of the research area that we work in, irrespective of the manuscript type that we choose to write, the core components of an abstract is going to be the same. It will be revolving around the background, methodology, conclusion, and the closing remark, or you can say the way forward. So we need to be careful on those elements. So I have some time, and I'll quickly cover one more element, which is around the anatomy of a manuscript, and it's called graphics. So when we talk about graphics, it's similar to the table of content, where we try to make things more fancy or make things more and more attractive for the readers, so that they could feel themselves engaged. They should have that kind of like interest, that, okay, if they have done this sort of data analysis, that data analysis has been presented in such a way that it's easy to understand. So those kind of things, when it comes into picture, it makes us feel that we are involved in the research, rather than getting more and more bored about it. So graphics is an element which adds glamour to the paper, and there are certain things that we should be careful about. It's more commonsensical in nature, not having a lot very hard and fast rule around, okay, you have to pick these colors only. We have to be sensible about certain things, and doing justice to what we want to highlight in the form of a graphic. So using particular colors, having a kind of understanding that, okay, not on line background, we should use a light color for making any kind of bar diagram or chart or graphs. we should have an understanding that when we are trying to repeat experiments, there should be error analysis included in it. The repeatability and reproducibility of the experiment should be reflected when we try to capture those details in the form of the bar diagrams or bar graphs. We'll see with the help of the examples that I have captured here. And as you can see, people could have just put it into a tabular form. But again, when we talk about this microscopic image, they have rightly captured that what kind of cell lines they have used, how many days the incubation were done, what was the effect when the day-to-day experiments were done, and how the different kind of things were captured when it comes to the bar diagrammatic representation, the reproducibility of the experiment, how things were done. So when somebody is writing the inference of the experiment which has been done or the material method of the experiment, and side by side people see this is a visual experience that they can get. So sometimes people have a correlation that I'm doing the experiment, okay, these are the data that has been captured by the researchers. So this is how people feel it live. So have that liveliness in the paper with the help of the different kind of diagrammatic representation, the graphics that we provide. And this is an opportunity for us to talk to the reader, to talk to the scientific community that let's see, I captured the details of the experiment with so much so data in the form of, let's say, in the form of the energy gap that I have identified, in the form of the different kind of experiments that I have done in absorbance. This is the peak. This peak corroborates with the kind of understanding that we have done with the optical behavior of the molecule, the materials that we have identified, the reliability of the material in using in such kind of energy experiment. So those kind of things get into the live model with the researchers who are into the area. But at the same time, for the people who are not into the area, that gives a fair representation that, okay, you have put an effort to make people understand about the research, the data that you have captured in the schematic and representable way. So one quick exercise that I have here for you, with the help of discussion that we have done now, out of image A and image B, which image do you feel that is a proper schematic representation of the experiment, the data points that the authors have captured? If your choice is image A, you can put image A in the experiment, or if it is B, you can put B into the chat box. I'll wait for a few seconds and then proceed further. Okay. Softwares that can use. Okay, so I can see most of the people opting for A, and this makes it clear that we have an alignment and understanding that whatever graphics that we prepare, there should be a clarity into it. It should be legible. The people who are quite familiar with the physical chemistry, they will quickly grasp that there is some kind of study that they have captured in terms of enthalpy of which talks about enthalpy of mixture. There is something around the thermodynamics and those kind of studies, but it's quite easy to understand. The minor ticks, major ticks, all of them have been captured. The legibility is there. The units are captured very properly. But at the same time, when we talk about the image B, it has lot many experiment that has been captured here. There are lot many important experiments that they have done in terms of time taking experiment, the energy gaps. They have also tried to produce the reproducibility, the error analysis bar, the energy gaps. But at the same time, it's not quite easy to understand. And this is where the author misses to justify the claim that they have done in the research article. So it's not only about doing the research, capturing the data, but also having a kind of understanding, having an empathy for the person who is going to read the paper, who is going to extract data from it, and then have a kind of understanding to continue the research in different directions. So we should have that kind of understanding that a research done today would be contributing to an advancement tomorrow. And if as well as a scientific element, not totally go into like, okay, I want to be like totally into the Mona Lisa, but not highlight the part of the scientific essence we want to picturize. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think somebody also asked about how to, write symbols for, radicals or chemical symbol. So I would just like to, take the liberty to answer that one of the features in MS Word is inserting an equation. So if you know the correct syntax, you can actually create those equations and how to write radicals and everything. So that can be really taken care of. Any suggestions for that?
Yeah. On the other hand, Piyush, what I can say, because I'm from an organic chemistry background and I do understand that part. So most of what I can say, the credible journals, they do have a kind of format. They provide these author guidelines that how you need to capture those details. So I still remember that we had a particular way of capturing how to write degree centigrade. It was not around like you have to put 0 and then subscript it. No, there is a very fine way to do that, and I think those can be found out when you go to certain, even when we follow the author guidelines of GOC, organic letters, some other organic related journals from a different publishing house. So they do help it. The other part is, even there are certain set of like reading materials which are from older days and they are still relevant. So I would also suggest that it's very easy nowadays. You can just put on Google that help me around certain general notations around certain things like delta, degree centigrade, the radical representation, cation anion representation in a molecule, and they'll help you with those kind of self-help reading materials which are scientific in nature. So those could also be helpful other than what we have at ACS in the terms of author guidelines. I can see many questions coming. So I think Piyush has got frozen. Piyush, are you still there? So by the time I'll take some of the generic questions. So somebody is asking up to what extent, there are so many questions just coming and going. Somebody asks that up to what extent AI can be used. So one of the things that I can tell clearly, that with the help of the understanding and alignment between the publishers around different associations that we have, the Committee on Publication Ethics tells, and it's clear that we can use AI in certain segments. For example, if you want to refine our language, if you want to refine the language of the title, again, if you want to prepare some of the graphics that is scientific in nature, those kind of things can be done. We can't use AI or any of the generative AI models as co-authors. They can't be responsible for whatever research we are producing. We cannot use AI for any conceptual designing. So anything which is related to the novelty, anything which is related to the conceptual and fundamental of the research article or the research work that we have done, we should avoid using AI. The reason being, most of the open AI tools are regenerative. They are training themselves. And at the same time, when we are putting anything which is unpublished in nature, we are trying to feed that open AI model. And we are just giving them access to whatever work that we have done for past 5 years to be taken by somebody if somebody is putting up the prompt like that. So we have to be careful on those lines. So be very precise. We can use AI to refine languages in the introduction part. Be very clear around a balanced nature of use into the preparation of schematic representation, cover images, and at the same time refining any sort of the conclusion or things that we want to do. The other part is, whenever we are using AI, it's very important to put up the attribution, that what kind of AI model we have used, what are the prompts that we have identified, and if it works, keep a snapshot of what we have put in the prompt and put it into the supporting information, so that, let's say, even though if somebody asks a question that could you please elaborate that why did you use it, you will have certain things to highlight that, okay, this is the basis on which I went ahead, and this is not something which is non-ethical in nature.
So again, it is nice to see that this meeting is not only attended by researchers and faculty, but also a few librarians. So I have got a question from a librarian, and he's inquiring that do we have APC tokens provided by ONOS? I can answer that. Of course not. ONOS is interested. They are trying to explore what could be the possibilities. We are providing them the data, and if that happens, it will. But currently, it is not. So the supplementary question which comes across is that how can we publish without APC and open access? Would you like to answer that?
Yeah, so I mean, you're talking about how they can publish without APC. So to let them know, to let all the audience know that ACS is open and has been very supportive about open access, but at the same time, we do have around 60 journals which are hybrid in nature, where anybody can publish without paying any APC. So those are in all the multidisciplinary domain, all those different kind of specific domain, whether it be organic, physical chemistry, multidisciplinary nature, computational, environmental chemistry. So those kind of journals we do have, and I'll encourage them to go through ACS publications. We have different verticals, and whichever journal aligns with their research area, they can go ahead and submit to it. To make them very clear, all the open access have a kind of like lock with an open model as a key, so they can leave it. The rest of them are the places where they can submit their research articles.
And I'll take the opportunity to also mention very clearly that paying an APC doesn't mean that your paper is published. It is the other way around. First, your paper actually passes the editorial rigor, and if it is accepted, and if you can pay the APC, then it becomes open access. So it is not like you just pay and you get it published. So please be clear about this fact in mind. Okay? So you will not be escaping the editorial rigor, and that is what makes the quality of ACS journals. So it's pretty important to know. Ajay, a small question which comes across is, what is the difference between a TOC image and a graphical abstract?
Yeah, so again, there is no, what I can say, it's a kind of a terminological difference. Many of the research articles where we try to see graphical abstracts and table of content, it's a synonymous. But the only thing is that how people try to relate it. So not much difference. It's only about like some of the publishing house call it as graphical abstracts. So some of the publishing houses call it as a table of content. And even to emphasize that it's more around the journals which are into the domain of chemistry, bio. If you go to the physics and mathematics, they do not have anything called as table of content. So it's nothing to talk about. It's just a kind of terminological difference, not to bother much about.
That I think that answers the query. One interesting question which has come up is regarding the significance of the email address of the corresponding author. So somebody is inquiring that should we have an official email address which should be given as a corresponding author, or a personal email can be done? And just adding on to it, they also want to know what really happens if the corresponding author is not affiliated to an institution. Yeah. So to answer the first part, how does it help having an institutional email ID? So the institutional email ID does add credibility, that you have a credible association with certain institutes. The reason being, in the age of like so much, what I can say, unethical things happening across the world, there are a lot many things around paper mills where a lot many people just hook up the email IDs and do this bulk submissions of different manuscript and different journals. So it's very important to have a kind of like track that, okay, you are associated with some journal, some institute, and that adds authenticity and credibility. So your identity, your association with the institute is a credible source of information. The other reason is why we want that. We all know that the kind of research that we are doing, it's a kind of like corresponding author. So a person who could be correspondent for any kind of query that could arise in the future, because that person is responsible for the research which is presented in the published article. So let's say if I am a corresponding author, my email ID is there, and that email ID is not authentic, will somebody after 10 years be able to communicate with me? Will that be credible? It will not be credible. So to add an authenticity, to have that kind of like the process of advancement of science being factual, we need to have that in our mind. Now coming back to the fact that can we have Gmail or other kind of email ID? Yes, we can have. It's not possible to have what I can say. There is some kind of like not access, some kind of accessibility issue. So that's fair enough. But at the same time, having an authentic address adds credibility that we should not deny. The second part is, Piyush, how does it help in? What was the second part of the question? it was, I mean, the second part was that, just one sec. I mean, if a person is not affiliated to any institution, what should happen? I mean, and he's a corresponding author. How should that be taken across in terms of, submitting a paper?
Yeah, it's fine. They can submit a paper. That's not an issue. But the only part is that they'll have to, because if you do a research, it's not that you can just do your research on your own. There will be some association with an institute. There will be some research center where you have done it. It's not that I'll do a research in my home. Right? That's not possible.
No, I think these questions are more of inquisitive and hypothetical.
Yeah, it's fine. Like we do understand that from the curiosity point of view, but at the same time we have to have that understanding that even we do a research in institute, the institute has a full authority on the kind of IP, on the kind of innovation that we do. I cannot say that I have developed this molecule and this is my molecule. At the end of the day, the infrastructure, the resources that I have utilized, that is from the institute. So whenever it is going to be patented, whenever there is going to be any innovation, the institute is going to be a greater party. I am also going to, because my existence is only because the institute provided me the infrastructure. Of course, some of the things which happen in the theoretical world, where I can say the mathematical equation, those kind of things, their things are different. But when it comes to infrastructure nature, when it comes to resourcing, when it comes to testing, and let's say when we talk about drug development, there is not many things. It's not individual in nature. Yeah.
Dr. Ajay, there's one person who's getting impatient about her question actually. Yeah, so she wants to know about some softwares that she can use for graphical abstracts, and she's quite, that her question is not being answered.
No, so in terms of table of content, what I'm trying to tell that they can use different kind of generative AI, and then also mix and match around the different kind of scientific tools that we have. So I'll give a quick example. For example, I have to make a schematic representation or table of content of a molecule that I have synthesized and that has application in, let's say, Alzheimer's, right? So I'll take Midjourney, for example. I'll provide Midjourney with a kind of prompt that, okay, this is the kind of molecule and I want a representation helping me identify that the molecule entangles into some set of amyloids into the brain. So give me a picturative representation or something like illustration. That will provide me an illustration. What I'll do, I'll combine it with the help of the camera images that I have built around the molecule, the schematic representation. I can combine it with the help of Adobe, with the help of Canva, with the help of PowerPoint presentation. So what I'm trying to tell the audience here, please do not rely on one generative AI LLM, any kind of it, for making your table of content. Please utilize your scientific capability and your artistic element too. Have your prompt, get some ideas, get some inspiration through it, and then utilize it through different kind of models that you have, different kind of software tools that you have. If you are a person who is working in biology and you have worked on images software, you will have different kind of cell representations. So utilize ImageJ to get those images and have those when you are putting up a comprehensive picture of the story that is coming up in your research work. So this is what I would like to share. I hope that helps them.
Yeah, probably it looks like, there is a bit of confusion and apprehension. People might be looking forward to asking about free tools or,
We should be very frank about the fact that the free tools are not going to help them provide the exact kind of thing in terms of the scientific element, because I am doing the research. So people should feel the fact that if you are doing the research, you have an identity that is in mind, that there was a story, why I picked up the problem. The AI is not going to understand. We'll have to make them understand with the help of prompt, or we'll have to take some of the things that they are providing and mix and match, have a kind of like, it's all a kind of, I'll not say a masala, but at the same time, we'll have to make things in the way we want to taste. And that taste of the community, that taste of the scientific community, we know, not the AI knows. AI doesn't know who we are going to serve, who is going to be my audience. If I belong to a certain set of scientific community, either I let AI know that this is my requirement, or I'll have to blend things accordingly.
Moreover, each of the tools will be having its benefits as well as limitations. So you just cannot depend upon a single. So like you said, it is good to mix and match and see what you really want.
Yeah, exactly. For the cover art, I'm much blunt here that cover art is not something which it's more artistic in nature. So you can rely on that part. I have seen like people using Gemini, Mid Journey, a lot many. What I can say, Adobe has a different element on the advanced version that Canva has. So people are outrightly using those cover images, but at the same time, they are also trying to come up. And I'll also try to highlight certain elements. There are many studios now that have opened, and they are the scientific artwork studio. So if you will provide them certain kind of artwork that okay, this is the kind of thing that I have in mind, they'll have a conversation with you. It's not about just they'll take up and create it. I have had the conversation with them. So what they do, they set up a conversation that okay, I have that image. Can you please help me understand what was the thought when you have this drawing on the paper, or what was it that correlated with the science that you have in your research article? They extract it and then they try to put it on the form of a digital cover art, which we see nowadays very much highlighted on different pages of the journal. People try to highlight on their web profiles. So these are the things that happen.
So Ajay, I mean, without taking it further, I'll just move on to the next question. This looks pretty good, and it is about the challenging review process. So somebody has commented and named a journal which is not our journal per se, but I know they are saying that it looked like that when they submitted the article, the reviewers and the comments which were of Jack's level review, and they felt that it is an AI generated review. So how to counter that AI generated review? Like the researcher is thinking, I'm not really sure that anybody is using a AI.
Yeah, so currently I can attest from the society publishers point of view, and even from the broader publishing house, that it has not come into a trend where AI has been used as a reviewer. This is not coming into picture, because again there will be a whole lot discussion around the ethics of AI in peer review process. So that will, if it comes, it will be in a different domain. It will be more as a technical assistance, more as to support the reviewers. Because what I can relate here, if I share the bare numbers, year-wise, 9 million papers are getting published or that are submitted. So we can understand there is a wide gap, because there are only close to 5 million people who are the experts who could review the papers. So there is a wide gap. It's two times, the gap is two times. So if we want to support the reviewers, AI could be a good model. AI could be a good technical advancement that we can tell. But AI cannot be the person who could like provide the scientific input around the kind of the assessment has to be provided, the evaluation that has to be done, the scientific expertise, the scientific background that a person has, that cannot come into picture. That will only happen in terms of a support that, okay, help me with the kind of research which has been done in this area. What is it, the advancement you see? And based on the judgment, the person who is an expert can make certain inferences that we can see as in the review. The other part is, if you see these kind of instances, if somebody feels that the reviewers comment are AI generated, or there is some kind of misconduct, so it's totally unethical, and you should outrightly report the same instance to the journal or editorial office, because they need to know about it. And these are the practices which are taken into what I can say highest regard when it comes to the remit of upholding the integrity of scientific process or scientific publishing. So whenever we experience this, please reach out to the journal, whichever. I'm not saying it's only to ACS journals, but whichever publishing house you have experienced this kind of instance, please reach out to their editorial office and cite and quote the reasons. Highlight what is it that let you feel about that and why it is not acceptable. So that they could have a kind of experience. They could have those kind of judgment. They could scan it, they could review it, analyze it, so that these things do not happen in future.
I will second the fact that ACS takes utmost care while processing or rejecting or accepting the manuscript, and you are always open to connect with us, and we can have a discussion and explanation from the editorial office. Dr. Ajay, I understand there's a limitation of time. I'll just take two questions, and I need two quick answers for them as well. One is about a special issue. So what happens if somebody actually submits a paper for a special issue and the deadline changes? That is one question.
Mhm.
Secondly, if your paper is not accepted in a special issue, can it be accepted in a normal publishing process?
So the change around the deadlines, it depends upon the journal who have highlighted or who have featured the special issue. Sometimes what happens that due to certain reasons, if the people who have, or let's say if the guest editors or the people who have launched a special issue, they feel that certain regions, or they still feel that some people have sent email, because this is an internal process where people sometimes reach out that, okay, will we be able to have more extended timeline for the paper that we are submitting? So when they see that there are more requests coming from the community, and this is again an interest from the community. So in the interest of the community, sometimes what they do, they try to extend the timeline for the submission. So that is one of the reasons. The second reason could be generally special issues do have occasion. So at ACS publications, we do not do special issues like here and there. Many publishing houses do very high number of special issues.
Yeah.
There is a high frequency of it. But in ACS publications, we value special issues as special. We try to celebrate those special issues as an occasion to highlight something, to celebrate something, to have something as a milestone, to have something in honor of somebody. So in that case, we try to tag it and align with a lot many things. For example, we recently did the 25th year anniversary of the Chemical Research Society of India. So when the Chemical Research Society of India event happened, no, we wanted to have that year as a bracket, so that the people who are associated, who are from the different and diverse community, who are interested to submit to that journal, they can submit their article to it. Now, the question around if the paper is getting published into the special issue or not is a question of the credibility, the kind of the peer review, if it passes the peer review test. Because it's not the fact that if you are submitting your article to a special issue, it will be compromised with the rigor. It will not be taken into peer review process. It will go with the same kind of peer review rigor that we have at ACS publications. It will not be compromised. So it's obvious that a paper which is coming into a special issue, if it doesn't meet the standard, the rigor, and if it doesn't align with the peer review process, that may be desk rejected. That may be rejected after review. That may be transferred to some other journals. So it's irrespective of the fact that whether it is in a special issue or not in a special issue. The other part, that if it is rejected at a special issue, I'm talking from the perspective of ACS publications, not taking a stand from any other publishers here. So if it is rejected from any ACS journal, there is a reason behind it. So of course, if there is a reject and resubmit, that you are given an opportunity to revise certain things and then resubmit, of course you can submit to the same journal. But if it is a desk reject and you want to, like, after 1 month you want to sit back with the manuscript and then again submit to that journal, that will not be possible. That will not go ahead, because every data is there into the system, and people generally are very careful about it. Having said that, you have this opportunity that, let's say, for next 3 months, you feel that there are new things that you have added into that manuscript, which could be potentially good for the people into that particular domain to look at. So in that case, you can again go ahead with a fresh submission with the revision of the manuscript.
So typically the process remains just like a normal publishing.
Yeah,
and the rigor remains the same.
Yeah,
absolutely. Just one more question, the last question. Surabhi, please allow me to do that. Interesting question. The question is about how to differentiate between the abstract and conclusion of a paper, because sometimes the abstract and conclusion, they simply tell the same story. So the gentleman wants to know, can we differentiate, or what should be the precautions which we should, like it is a summary in abstract, a conclusion is also a summary. So how to differentiate between both?
Yeah, so we did emphasize on the fact that an abstract is a comprehensive story of all the elements that we want to highlight in a paper. And then when we talk about a conclusion, it's a factor which is covered into a factor, some of which is covered into the abstract. So conclusion is not the overall picture. When we talk about abstract, it's around the genesis of the research problem that we have identified, the kind of way, the methodology we have adopted to solve that problem, then there comes like what are the different kind of elements that we are trying to come up with inference, the conceptual advancement, the kind of breakthrough element, if there is anything. And then comes a way forward, which is a part of the conclusion we want to highlight at the end of the paper. So there is a subtle difference between the overall conclusion that we want to present in the end of the paper. So the end of the paper is all about having a segregation that, okay, yes, all the structures were done. Like we wrote the introduction, we captured experimental details, we had inferences. Now the conclusion part is there that, okay, these things are done. Based on the kind of things that we have presented here, either it is a full stop that I conclude that there is nothing where we can go ahead from this particular set of study, or this is a way forward. In the way forward, we try to put up a kind of open avenue that these series of molecules have been synthesized and now they have potential applications in some kind of like screening of certain drug-resistant molecule, or let's say asset development, or if we have some materials which are of nanomaterial type, we want to have more collaborations which could pave out the way for some energy applications, some nanomaterials synthesis. So those kind of things can come up into. So this is where the segregation has to be very aptly done, rather than just because the conclusion in abstract is not a complete one that you are going to put up as a full stop.
So fantastic. I mean, I would thank the fantastic questions, the audience, and of course, fantastic Dr. Ajay for replying each of them, explaining it very clearly, very lucidly. So thank you so much for that. And Surbhi, it looks like that people have...
Piyush, one thing, I think, let me apologize because it's very difficult to take all the questions. And I think on behalf of all of us, we would like to apologize that we were not able to take up all the questions given the constraint around the time. Even we have exceeded 30 minutes. So we would like to engage again, have more and more discussions around it. And it's great that everybody has put up the same level of interest, equal level of interest and engagement that we had imagined. We did appreciate this in the past when we had these webinars. But especially with this, we are having that feeling of in-person interaction. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, fantastic. And in fact, the comments are pretty good. Some people have written the QA session is truly insightful. So we need more of that. So we will keep that in mind in our future things. And Surbhi, people I think have liked our presentation, and they are actually asking for the link for the webinar which we are going to have on 29th.
That's
so
right.
Maybe you can just share it in the chat box, or maybe you can tell them how to reach out. So thank you so much, Dr. Ajay, and the wonderful audience. I'll be passing on the baton back to Surbhi for the closure.
Thank you so much, Piyush, for being such a very good host for the Q&A session. And thank you, Dr. Ajay, for such a nice presentation. And I would like to thank all the audience who kind of stayed with us for about 1.5 hours. And I will also request everybody to join us for the next session, which is on the 29th, that is a Friday, where we will talk about how best you can make use of ACS resources through ONOS. I'm going to leave the link in the chat box. Please register. The seats are limited. We have only 500 capacity to fill in. Please book your spot as soon as possible. And we will see you in the next session. I do see the comments around the certificates. Those will be emailed in a week's time to all the attendees. I also hear that the recording of the session is needed. I will try to get the recording on an email to all the participants at the earliest. Please allow us some time, and we're working on all these areas. Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening, and we will meet you on the 29th again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.